Hey, welcome back, and in this video I'm going to introduce you to true, false and nil in ruby-c extension. So this is very simple. To demonstrate you, let's open the terminal and go back to our directory called ramdisk, and let's create one directory called x. So you can create x anywhere you want. Let's cd into x and let's create the xtconf.rb. We are going to require a makefile, and then we are going to create makefile. Let's call it xyz, and then create a C file called abcd. Now include ruby.h as I've shown in the previous video. Now let's do void init xyz, and then we can define a nil class. It is not class in C, of course. We can define a nil object like this: x equals to q nil, and that's it. This is a nil. To set the global variable, we will do ruby-c-ext set $x to x, and then rb global variable $x. Now if we compile and run our code, ruby-xtconf.rb ampersand make ampersand ruby -r. We don't have anything now here, but if we compile it, we will get xyz.so and then execute with $x like this. Sorry, we need single quote again. So we have nil here, and if I edit the abcd.c file again and put q true here and compile and run it, you get true here. And if I do q false here, you get false. So that's how you can create true and false. Also, false is equals to 0. So if you do 0 like this, this is also false. But in case of true, as you can see, it is 20. So if we do 20, you get true. And if I do 8, I believe, which is nil. Yeah, it is 8. So if I do 8, you get nil. But this is not really a good way, so we will just be using the constant like this: q nil, q true, and q false. Now let's do a simple program. Let's declare a value arg equals to q false. Let's also declare a value called string str. Like, we can also do it like this, and then we are going to check if there's any arg or not, because 0 in C is false and 0 in Ruby is also false in the C extension. So if you get false here, that means it is 0. So you can just check if arg equals to 0, or maybe equals to q false, or you can just leave it like this. We are going to declare a variable called string arg and set it to rb func call arg rb intern 2s and 0 argument. So we are going to convert the arg here into a string with the 2s method. So it doesn't matter if it's a integer or it is a true or false, it is always going to get converted into a string. It might be an array, hash, or integer as well, it doesn't matter. Let's define also a string in C, and to get the string from the Ruby string, you need to run string value pointer, string value ptr, and give the string argument str_arg. So we are converting this Ruby string into a C string here. And now let's define also a buffer and set it to 1000 for time being. In production environment, you want to run malloc instead of setting this buffer to 1000 length character. Anyway, continuing with our program. Now we can also run printf and set the buffer to the value of arg is %, and then string. That means we are setting the buffer to the value of arg is whatever the value is in string arg. Now let's set our good old str to the buffer. To convert our string buffer to Ruby string, we need to run rbstr new cstr and then the buff, right? If it is not true, in other words, if arg is false, we'll run something else, right? So we can do str equals to rbstr new cstr arg is false, because anything other than 0 is true in C, and anything other than 0 is not false in Ruby. So when we have false here, we will not run this code block if arg is anything other than false. Now let's define our good old global variable and set it to let's call it $xyz, because that's the program name, it doesn't matter. And let's set it to str. Now we want to protect it, rb global variable $str. Now let's compile and run our code. Hope everything is right. As you can see, the arg is false. If I make it to, we have to give it a Ruby object, right? So it is value, so we can do maybe into fix 5000, something like that. And as you can see, it is the value of arg is 5000. So if we do something like rb array new, don't worry, we haven't covered arrays and hashes yet, but let's do that right now. The value of arg is empty array, right? As you can see, if I set it to a hash, it prints the hash as a string. So this is our program right now, which is very static. To modify anything, we have to modify the code here, and then we have to compile and run it, which is really mundane and nobody wants to do that. Now that we have a deeper understanding in the ruby-c extension, I want to introduce you to the function in the next section, where we can call a function like maybe donkey and pass it any argument like 5, or maybe a string like hello, something like that. That way our code is not that much static, so we don't have to compile our code in order to make a change, right? So I do thank you for watching. Hope to see you in the next video. Goodbye.